Let's get right to the breaking news. A New York appeals court judge just rejecting Donald Trump's emergency request to stop his hush money trial from starting this coming Monday. CNN's Kara Scannell is outside the courthouse in New York City for us. Kara, give us the latest.
Yeah, well, if this is the third attempt to delay the trial in 3 days and the third loss for former President Donald Trump, there were arguments just a short time ago where the appeals court judge heard from both Trump's attorneys and prosecutors in the case. And what Trump's lawyers were arguing is they want this trial stopped because they said they want to challenge the judge because he hasn't recused himself in this case based on work his daughter has done for a political consulting firm that has worked with Democrats. And they also wanted to stop the case because they don't like the judge's ruling on presidential immunity. Trump's lawyers wanted to stop the trial because until the Supreme Court rules in a different case on presidential immunity, the judge said that they made that motion far too late. In arguing to the judge, Trump's attorney, Emil Bavay, said this can only be done once and it must be done right because the impact it will have on this election. Now, the lawyer for the district attorney's office, Stephen Wu, he's their chief appellate attorney, he had pushed back on this, saying that this was entirely the wrong way to challenge any of these rulings, so that can only be done procedurally after there is a conclusion to this case, a verdict in this trial. He urged the judge, saying there is a powerful public interest to ensure this trial moves forward on the scheduled date. And just a short time after that, the judge issued this ruling denying the stay, denying Trump's effort to stop the trial. What was extraordinary today, Wolf, was that this court had a full calendar of appeal arguments that it was hearing. So what they had to do was move this down to the basement to rearrange the tables to create a makeshift courtroom so they could accommodate this hearing today. So they created a table for the judge, a table for the attorneys to argue, and then a table and chairs in the back for us in the media to be able to witness this event. But they made this extraordinary accommodation, which may be the first time they've ever done this, in order to address this emergency action brought by the former president. But as we said, this is the third attempt in 3 days to try to stop this trial, and so far they're 0 for 3. Jury selection is still set to begin on Monday. Wolf?
And we'll be watching. Kara Scannell reporting for us. Thank you very, very much. I want to bring in our political and legal experts, including Norm Eisen, who's out with a timely, very important brand new book entitled Trying Trump, a guide to his first election interference criminal trial. There you see the cover right there on your screen. Norm, let me get your reaction to this appeals court once again denying these Trump requests.
Wolf, you have to ask yourself, what is the source of this extraordinary desperation? I have never seen anything like this. Two of these are lawsuits against the judge. And in my book, Trying Trump, I analyze where I think this frenzy is coming from. He stands a significant risk of being convicted and sentenced to incarceration, and he knows it. And the nature of the trial has been expressed by the judge in what he's going to read to the jury, Wolf, as being allegations of election interference, in essence. So that is why the connection is here. 2016 allegations of lying to voters, to manipulate an election, and then as a gateway drug to 2020. That's why Trump is so alarmed, and this extraordinary failed effort
Keeps failing. He keeps making these requests to delay, and he keeps failing every single time. Andrew McCabe, are there any avenues still left open potentially for Trump to continue this effort to try to slow things down?
With a lot of lawyers and a lot of money to pay those lawyers with, there's always another option to open for Mr. Trump, and we've seen him take advantage of every one of those. But I do think what we're seeing here is the very stark difference between the state criminal justice system and the federal system. Here in the state, they deal with a much higher volume of defendants, of motions, of last-minute efforts to delay trials, and they do it much more quickly. You don't see these long 2 weeks to file a response and then a surrebuttal, and then we have oral arguments, and then we think about it for a month. These things are happening very quickly. I expect if any other motions are filed, they will be dispatched with the same sort of haste.
And Wolf, we should not be surprised by what Donald Trump is doing. This is the classic Donald Trump playbook. He wants to delay, so and we can see some more between now and Monday. He's going to try everything. But I've spoken to several legal experts, lawyers who deal with Judge Merchan. They say he is smart, he is experienced, he is decisive, that if anyone can handle this, he is the judge to do it. I think there's one piece of advice that our two lawyers can say that lawyers normally give their clients. Don't attack the judge. It's 101.
Too late.
Too late. Clearly, I don't know that his lawyers gave him that advice, but certainly Donald Trump has done the opposite here, which is also part of his
Let me get
playbook.
Gloria into this conversation. What do you think's behind all these Trump efforts to delay?
Well, obviously, he wants to put it off till after the election. So if he wins, he can dismiss it. That's number one. But this particular case is so tawdry. You know, it's about paying hush money to a porn star. And while that's not the charge, right? The charge is about election interference and trying to hide the money so he could win the election in 2016. It's embarrassing. You know, the whole subject matter is embarrassing. The people who are going to testify, Stormy Daniels, you know, the porn star, Michael Cohen, you know, his former attorney, now his sworn enemy, is gonna testify about what Trump asked him to do. So it's kind of juicy, and I don't think Trump wants to sit through that. And I don't think it's going to be good for him to sit through that. So there are lots of reasons to try and delay it. And the third reason, of course, is he's got to campaign for the presidency. And that takes up a little bit of your time, and he'll be stuck in court 4 days a week.
Yeah, he certainly will be. You know, Andrew, how is this jury selection process likely to unfold, and what's your expectation?
I think we'll see a bit. We've gotten a preview of what some of the questions are already. We know that both sides are going to be asking maybe questions that we don't normally see in jury selection, things about the sort of media that prospective jurors typically rely on, the channels they watch, maybe the periodicals they read. Questions about political affiliation have already been debated. So you don't see those in a typical trial, but essentially what the prosecutors are going for are likely highly educated people who they think can be impartial. That's, of course, the standard for jurors. You don't have a right to have a jury of your own political supporters or friends or enemies for that matter. You simply have a right to a jury of your peers and folks who have said that they can be impartial in their weighing of the evidence. So I don't think there will be quite as many fireworks as maybe some folks are imagining there would be.
May not be fireworks, but this will be history unfolding. This is the first time in American history, Jamie, that a former U.S. president will be facing a criminal trial.
Absolutely. And, you know, to Andy's point, one of the things we're going to see in this jury selection is which jurors each side can get rid of. Because you have a pool there. Some you'll be able to get knocked off for cause, but some of it is the luck of the draw and who's going to be there.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching that very closely. I'm fascinated. In your new book, Norm, Trying Trump, you write this, and I want to put it up on the screen. If Trump is convicted, the judge will have a range of sentencing options at his disposal. DA Bragg, District Attorney Bragg, will be able to make a compelling argument that Trump's crimes warrant incarceration. How likely is it that a former president of the United States will actually sit in a jail?
Well, there's two parts to the question, Wolf. And of course, we have to remember Donald Trump is not above the law, but he's not below the law. He's innocent until proven guilty. But with trial just a few days away, with all these delay efforts failing, we now have to ask, what is the end game of this trial? And my original research for the book indicated that defendants who commit these 34 felonies of document falsification of business records, when there are aggravating circumstances, which we have here, as the judge says, an attempt to influence an election that might have influenced a very close election. When you have a very unrepentant defendant, we have that here as well. It seems unlikely he'll change course. In those circumstances, if there is a conviction, you do get jail time. It can be as much as 1 1/3 to 4 year range, and we will just have to see if the president ever serves it.
Yeah, well, I find it very unlikely that he would serve it. I find it very unlikely that you would sentence a former president to jail time. There are other alternatives, correct? I mean,
Well,
community service? I don't know.
Gloria, my eyes are a little blurry after reviewing almost 10,000 New York cases.
Yes.
You do get jail time for this.
And
Well,
today,
let's see
Alan
if he would.
Weisselberg, the former chief financial officer for the Trump organization, a man very close for decades with Trump, He's going back to Rikers
But he
Island
wasn't
prison
president.
in New York. He's not
Yeah,
the president,
yeah.
but he's convicted of these crimes, and he's off to jail for a second time. All right, guys, thanks very, very much.